The universe is governed by laws. These laws are immutable, unchangeable, and they dictate the very fabric of reality. Physics, chemistry, biology, these shape the cosmos and everything in it. From the tiniest particles to the vast expanses of space, these scientific principles are the foundation of all existence. For millennia, humanity has struggled with its own set of laws, those designed to bring order to society. These laws have evolved over time, reflecting the changing values and norms of civilizations. We punish, we rehabilitate, we strive for justice. Our legal systems are complex, aiming to balance retribution with rehabilitation, deterrence with compassion. But what if we could rewrite the very code of conduct itself? What if the essence of morality and behavior could be encoded within our very DNA? What if the future of law enforcement lay not in handcuffs and prison cells, but in the double helix of our DNA? Imagine a world where crime prevention starts at the genetic level. Genetic modification, once the realm of science fiction, is rapidly becoming a reality. Scientists are making breakthroughs that could allow us to alter human genetics in ways previously unimaginable. We are on the cusp of an era where we can manipulate the building blocks of life, altering the very essence of who we are. This technology holds the promise of eradicating genetic diseases and enhancing human capabilities. Imagine a world where criminal behavior could be treated at its source, where violent tendencies could be erased with a gene edit. This could revolutionize our approach to crime and punishment. This is the promise and the peril of genetic sentencing. The idea that we could preemptively address criminal behavior through genetic modification is both thrilling and terrifying. This is not a story of the distant future, but a glimpse into a tomorrow that may be closer than we think. The rapid pace of technological advancement means that these possibilities could become realities within our lifetimes. It is a story of crime and punishment, of second chances and unforeseen consequences. The implications of genetic sentencing are profound, raising questions about free will, ethics, and the nature of justice. It is the story of Ethan Hayes and the genetic sentence that would change his life, and the future of humanity forever. Ethan's journey will take us through the heart of this new frontier, exploring the potential and the pitfalls of a world where justice is written in our genes. Ethan Hayes was a product of his environment. Raised in the slums of New Alexandria, surrounded by poverty and violence, he was a ticking time bomb of genetic predisposition. Studies had long shown a correlation between certain genetic markers and aggressive behavior. Ethan possessed them all. His life was a bleak tapestry woven from threads of anger, impulsivity, and despair. Then came the fateful night that sealed his fate. A petty argument with a rival gang member escalated into a brawl. Ethan, fueled by adrenaline and a cocktail of genetic predispositions, struck the fatal blow. The life drained from his opponent's eyes as Ethan watched in horror, the weight of his actions crushing him. He was tried and convicted of murder. The sentence, genetic modification. It was a new program, a last-ditch effort to curb the city's spiraling crime rate. Ethan, a young man with a family history of violence and a genetic profile to match, was the perfect candidate, or so they thought. From a young age, Ethan had witnessed the worst of humanity. His father, a man with a violent streak, often clashed with his mother, leaving young Ethan to fend for himself. School was no sanctuary either. Bullied and ostracized, Ethan's anger simmered beneath the surface, waiting for an outlet. Yet there were moments of calm. Ethan found solace in books and art, brief escapes from his harsh reality. As he grew older, the pressures of life mounted. His first job was a grueling experience with a boss who belittled him at every turn. But there were also friendships, fleeting moments of joy that reminded him of what life could be. The constant struggle to make ends meet weighed heavily on his family. His mother, a beacon of resilience, often broke down in tears, overwhelmed by their circumstances. Desperation led Ethan to the streets, where he found a sense of belonging in a gang. It was a dangerous path, but it offered him the camaraderie and protection he craved. Yet deep down, Ethan knew this wasn't the life he wanted. The internal struggle between his environment and his aspirations was a constant battle. The night of the crime was a culmination of years of pent-up anger and frustration. As the police sirens wailed, Ethan's life flashed before his eyes. In prison, he had time to reflect. The genetic modification program was his last hope, a chance to rewrite his destiny. The procedure was grueling, but Ethan endured, driven by the hope of a better future. As the days passed, he began to feel the changes. The anger that once consumed him started to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity. Upon his release, Ethan was determined to make amends. The world outside was still harsh, but he was no longer the same man. With a renewed purpose, Ethan dedicated his life to helping others, hoping to prevent them from making the same mistakes he did. The crime of Ethan Hayes was not just a tale of violence, but a story of redemption, a testament to the power of change. The process was long and arduous. Each step meticulously planned, every variable accounted for. The stakes were high and the margin for error was non-existent. Ethan was subjected to a battery of tests, his genetic makeup analyzed and dissected. The scientists left no stone unturned, scrutinizing every strand of his DNA for clues. The scientists, pioneers in the field of genetic manipulation, worked tirelessly, identifying the specific genes responsible for his aggressive tendencies. They debated and discussed, their faces etched with determination. They used CRISPR technology, a revolutionary tool that allowed them to edit genes with unprecedented precision. This was no ordinary procedure. It was a dance of science and art, a symphony of genetic reprogramming. Ethan lay strapped to a cold metallic table as the gene therapy was administered. The room was sterile, the air thick with anticipation. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He felt a cold dread creep up his spine. The uncertainty of what was to come gnawed at him, a relentless whisper in the back of his mind. This wasn't just a sentence, it was a reprogramming of his very being. The essence of who he was, rewritten in a language he couldn't understand. They were rewriting the code that made him who he was. Each gene edited, each sequence altered, a new version of Ethan was being crafted. The weeks that followed were a blur of confusion and disorientation. Ethan felt different, changed. His mind struggled to keep up with the new reality, the altered state of his being. The rage that had simmered within him for as long as he could remember, the constant itch for confrontation, had vanished. In its place was a strange tranquility, a calm that felt both foreign and familiar. In its place was a sense of calm he had never known. It was as if a storm had passed, leaving behind a serene landscape, untouched and pure. Was this the real him, or a pale imitation created in a lab? The question lingered, a shadow over his newfound peace. He stared at his reflection, searching for answers in the eyes that looked back at him. As he navigated this new world, Ethan couldn't help but wonder about the implications of his transformation. What did it mean to be human in an age where our very essence could be rewritten? He found solace in the connections he made, the relationships that grounded him. Despite the changes, the core of his humanity remained, a beacon guiding him through the uncertainty. In the end, Ethan realized that while the code may have been rewritten, the essence of who he was remained intact. He was not just a product of science, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Section 4. Life after the change. Ethan was released back into society a changed man. He was enrolled in a rehabilitation program designed to help him adjust to his new life. He learned to manage his emotions, to resolve conflict peacefully. He got a job, started a family. He was living proof that genetic sentencing could work, but the shadows of the past still lingered. The memory of that night, the life he had taken, haunted him. He could never forget the crime he had committed, even if his genes no longer carried the burden of his actions. Was this redemption, or simply a cruel trick of fate? Had they truly erased the darkness within him, or merely buried it beneath layers of synthetic tranquility? Ethan grappled with these questions every day, the weight of his past a constant companion. Section 5. The Sins of the Father. Years later, the ethical debate surrounding genetic sentencing raged on. Some hailed it as a miracle, a humane alternative to incarceration. Others condemned it as a slippery slope, a dangerous step towards a dystopian future of designer babies and genetic discrimination. Then came Lily, Ethan's daughter. She was a bright and cheerful child, the apple of her father's eye. But as she grew older, a disturbing pattern emerged. Lily displayed the same aggressive tendencies that had once plagued her father. The genetic markers thought to be eradicated had somehow resurfaced in his offspring. The news sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The implications were staggering. Had they inadvertently created a hereditary curse, passing down the sins of the father to future generations? The question hung heavy in the air, a chilling testament to the unforeseen consequences of tampering with the very fabric of life.